Hello everyone, today I will tell you about the movie Arcadian. Enjoy watching. The film opens with some graphic postmodern irony. Paul rummaging through a pile of junk to make some useful cash. A man runs down an alley while alarm sirens sound in the background, military patrols are visible and gunshots are heard. Having got out into nature, Paul casts a farewell glance at the city engulfed in smoke, and he goes to the shelter, where he hid two screaming babies. 15 years have passed. Paul lives with his sons, teenagers, and a dog in a remote area, separated from the world by a deep crack in the ground. One day, Thomas is almost late returning before dark from the nearby Rose farm, which frightens his father. At home, the three of them carefully close the windows with shutters from the inside, securing them with bolts for safety, and then have dinner. At the table, Paul warns his son that if he is late again, he will not leave the property line again. Joseph provokes his brother with questions about his interest in neighbors, which leads to a small quarrel. The father is in authority, and everyone quickly falls silent. The boys spend the rest of the evening playing chess. When the dog begins to scratch the floor, Paul and Thomas go down to the first floor. Suddenly, someone breaks through the boarded-up door, forcing them to prop it open. When the noise stops, the man carefully examines the surroundings through the viewing window, but sees no one. Joseph, who remained upstairs, says that the uninvited guest tried to break through the door in 3 attempts. In the morning, they see traces of huge claws on the door. While tearing up the damaged board to replace it, Paul finds a pile of huge cockroaches. During the day, the family goes about their usual activities. Joseph can't wait to indulge in a hobby in the barn, but his father first orders him to chop some wood. Paul later visits his son to find out that he is working on a car. They are discussing an incident that allegedly happened due to environmental pollution. Some creatures appeared to cleanse the planet of humanity. Father believes that there are enough people left in the world to unite again, and sooner or later they will be rescued from this farm. When Paul, with experience, helped start the engine, they, taking Thomas, set off on a trip. Afterwards, Thomas wants to run to Rose's farm, but his father orders him to first collect supplies using the car, and the visit will wait until tomorrow. Along the way, Thomas accuses Joseph of needing to keep an eye on them. The brothers quarrel, eventually agreeing to split up and meet at sunset. Thomas goes to the farm where he supposedly has to finish repairing the table. In fact, the reason for his visit is the owner's daughter, Charlotte. The girl leads him to the tree near which she walked as a child, using a rope leash to extend the radius allowed by her parents. There, they discuss possible versions of the apocalypse that happened, a poisonous fog or infection with an unknown virus through a beetle bite. They hug goodbye and go their separate ways. The sun is already setting towards the horizon. Joseph is at this time on the riverbank inspecting an abandoned ship that has run aground. Going down into the hold, he, in addition to supplies, finds a den of large beetles, the same ones that stuck to the door at night. Their swarm forces the guy to retreat. On the shore, the car does not start right away, forcing the guy to get nervous and try on his fingers how long it is until sunset. Joseph drives back, unaware that Thomas, while jumping over a crack, slipped and hit his head on a stone, falling down as a result. Without waiting for his brother, the driver returns home alone. Paul orders the house to be locked alone, and he, taking a backpack with things, goes in search of his unlucky son, promising to return in the morning. Armed with a knife, the man and his faithful dog go into the forest. Thomas comes to his senses at the bottom of the crevasse. He tries to find a way out by using a lighter to illuminate it, but to no avail. Hearing the rustling of the awakened creatures, Thomas takes out a penknife, but this does not save him from the attack of the monster, which stuck its paw into a hole in the ground. The father comes to the rescue in time, having heard the fuss. He attacks the monster, killing it, after which he goes down to his son, taking a torch. Having made sure that the son is not seriously injured, the man decides to stay in the cave until dawn, blocking the passage with stones so that the creatures do not get through. At this time at home, Joseph dozed off on a chair, not noticing how the observation window opened from the outside. A long paw of a monster penetrates the room through the hole, reaching out to the boy with clawed fingers. The sharp claws extend to obscenely long sizes. He manages to open the shutters from the inside to get into the house through the window. But this turns out to be an elaborate trap by a cunning kid. He traps the intruder in a makeshift cage dropped from the ceiling. In the cave, Paul tells his son to remove one of the stones in the rubble to see if the monsters have knocked it down. But as soon as he sticks his hand in with the torch, he is attacked and drops the light source. At this moment, the soil begins to sink under your feet, as if someone is digging a tunnel from below. The man lights a flare and then shoves a gas canister into the hole. Telling Thomas to press himself against the wall, Paul knocks the cap off the can, causing an explosion. Looking out the window in the morning and not noticing his relatives, Joseph sets off in his car to search. Thomas digs out the resulting earth blockage, pulling out his wounded father, while the faithful dog, having found his brother, tells him where to go. Joseph and his brother load the wounded man into a wheelbarrow and drive home, where they carry Dad into the bedroom. Confused and tormented by guilt, Thomas learns that his brother caught a monster during the night. Joseph covered the box with a cloth and does not allow it to be removed, so as not to harm the prisoner in vain. It will be useful for studying. While treating his father's wounds, Thomas says that they killed several creatures during the night and suggests killing the monster to get rid of the potential threat. The brothers approach the cage with a knife, but due to another quarrel, they simply let the creature out. She fearfully hides under the bed, away from the light. When the monster leans out, the dog that ran into the room rushes at it, provoking a retaliatory attack. Joseph pins the weakened creature to the floor with a mop, and Thomas, grabbing an axe, chops off its head. Practical Thomas is interested in whether the monster can be eaten. Joseph performs an autopsy to understand how the monster works, but his brother distracts him. He offers to move his father to Rose's farm, where there are adults and medicine. Joseph doubts that strangers will want to help them, but Thomas insists. Having loaded their father into the back, the brothers go to the neighbors. Charlotte's parents immediately refuse. They don't have many supplies to waste on outsiders. Mrs. Rose allows Thomas to stay with them, but his brother and father will have to return to their place. Disappointed, Joseph goes to his car. When Thomas runs after him, he accuses him of carelessness, which is why his father dies. The quarrel escalates into a fight. Thomas almost strangles his brother, but comes to his senses in time. Clearing his throat, Joseph leaves, and Thomas remains at his girlfriend's farm, where he is offered food. However, he cannot eat, he has to force himself. Afterwards, they retire with Charlotte in the room that was allocated to him, but a sudden visit from the girl's father spoils all the romance. On his way home, Joseph notices that the sheep in the pasture are acting strangely, as if something has scared them. In addition, near the house there is a channel in the ground leading to the entrance to the basement. Having dragged his wounded father into the house, the young man walks around the house, tapping the floor for cavities underneath. When the time comes to close the windows and doors, Joseph suddenly falls into a hole in the middle of the kitchen, dug by cunning monsters. Charlotte finds Thomas rummaging through the drawers. He is looking for medicine for his father, not wanting to stay away and leave his family. Although there is little time left before sunset, the guy convinces his girlfriend to share the medicine, which he reluctantly does, not knowing that one of the workers is eavesdropping on their conversation. Having received the pills, Thomas runs home, but is waylaid by a watchman with a gun on the road. The farm workers tie up Thomas, accusing him of theft. The man who caught him threatens with a gun, threatening to shoot off his leg, but suddenly falls underground into a fresh hole. Then a monster jumps out of the hole. Hearing the noise, Charlotte's father wants to check what is going on, but monsters have already entered the house. Due to the sudden attack, the man drops a candle, which starts a fire. The mother runs to warn her daughter, but the monster overtakes her, knocks her to the floor, and exposes her to biological contamination, possibly for the purpose of reproduction. Frightened, Charlotte leaves the room into the corridor, where she sees a bloody trail on the floor. It leads to a monster frozen in a strange position, still alive but seemingly gutted. In the barn, Thomas asks the workers to untie him as they are dragged away one by the attacking creatures. Having abandoned the prisoner, the men run outside, but there are too many monsters there. The young man manages to break out the wooden rail to which he was screwed, but a hungry monster is already snapping its mouth in front of them. Suddenly his head explodes. Charlotte appeared on the side with a shotgun. Having grabbed the medicine, the teenagers run out into the night, illuminated by flashes of fire from the burning house. Joseph is diligently filling up a hole in the floor with furniture when he hears a knock on the door. With a hammer in hand, he goes to check who it might be. Suddenly, the observation window opens and Thomas's hand reaches out, trying to feel for the latch. The brother and girlfriend climb into the house through the window, talking about what happened. The brothers make up awkwardly when Paul comes to. Joseph brings him up to date, wondering what they should do now. Dad logically advises to fight back. Having received instruction, the teenagers, under the leadership of Joseph, go to the barn. From there, they transport cans of gasoline into the house in a wheelbarrow and place them in the refrigerator. While Joseph prepares a trap by spilling gasoline around and making a fuse from a smoldering cigarette, Thomas and Charlotte barricade the kitchen so that the monsters that escape from the pit cannot immediately scatter throughout the house. Soon the monsters begin their assault, shaking the rubble above the hole in the floor. Thomas with a knife and Charlotte with a shotgun are waiting for the monsters near the kitchen door. When the first one climbs over the boarded-up boards, the guy hits him with a knife and the girl shoots off the head of the second one. They then run to the second floor, where Joseph is putting the finishing touches on the trap. A half-awake man comes out of the bedroom and, taking the girl's gun, shoots up the floor to make a hole to the first floor. When one monster breaks through, the brothers work together to kill it with improvised materials. The teenagers go to the bedroom, where a shelter has been made. Paul locks the door from the outside to keep the creatures out. The monsters break down the door and break into the room, but then the fire reaches the gasoline and an explosive reaction follows. The teenagers wait for her inside the freezer, which eventually falls on its side. Having got out, they try to find their father among the ruins. Suddenly, a burning hand emerges from the rubble. Frightened, the teenagers run to the car. Hastily starting the engine, they drive away from the burning house where they spent their entire short life. The surviving monsters are chasing them. Charlotte fires back with a shotgun before the terrifying chase continues. Having stopped to catch their breath, the teenagers see the starry sky for the first time in their lives. In the morning, having collected the remains, they bury their parents under Charlotte's tree. Then, having decided what to do next, the teenagers get into the car and go in search of other people who survived like them. Behind the car is Charlotte's old rope, which breaks from the tension, as a symbol of the beginning of a new life. Now they are on their own. The car drives off into the distance with a joyful dog running alongside. This is where the film ends.